Hi, I'm Andy Greenberg, and this is,
Carol Greenberg.
and we want to welcome you again to the monthly discussions about a Jewish culture, Jewish topics, Jewish history, and of Jewish interest. And this month's topic is not going to be religious, it's not going to be spiritual, it is going to be historical. And I got to tell you, Carol, it might be a little bit disturbing
Okay, I'm ready.
because what we are going to be talking about is anti Semitism, but not anti Semitism in today's world, but anti Semitism back in the 1930s. Now, Carol, some of the folks that we're talking to, they were actually there in the 1930s. We weren't, we have to admit that. So if you were there in the 1930s and you're familiar with all of this, then to a point I apologize, but I don't think all of us were. And even if you were there, we're about to uncover things I don't think you knew about. So let me begin, and I'm going to make a very, very harsh statement. And Carol, I want to understand your reaction
Okay.
because this is a tough one. The question is, in the world today, who are the biggest anti-Semites? I want you to think about that. Who are the biggest anti-Semites? Is it people who are Nazis? Is it people who are in France? Is it, in fact, the folks who are trying to attack and kill Israel? Is it the folks in Russia? What do you think? If you had a choice, who would you pick?
I have someone different.
Okay, who's that?
It's the Jews themselves
Yes.
because they rank on the different divisions of Judaism, and we're separated by Orthodox and Conservative and Reform. So I think it's the Jews themselves.
Yeah, and you can be a Jewish person who's anti-Semitic, exactly like Carol is saying. And in addition to that, and this one's going to be a little bit harsh, so I really want to get your opinion on this. In addition to that, by not doing anything for those that are trying to attack the Jews, in other words, being totally and not interested, not participating in any demonstrations, and even if a person is in a position of power, being totally ambivalent and just, yeah, I don't care, it's not me. Is that a type of anti-Semitism, Carol?
It is fun. Most people don't get involved with things that don't concern them or affect them directly.
Okay, all right.
So they say it's not maybe, well, it doesn't apply to me, but they're not affected by it and it doesn't hit home, or they don't have anyone that something happened to, they don't take an interest in it.
So I think what you're trying to say, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I just want to be understand this. If another Jew is attacked, and I'm a Jew, and I don't know that person could be in France. We live in Lake Worth. That person could be in Omaha, Nebraska. What you're really saying is, why should I care? It didn't happen to me. I'm not saying that's your position,
Right.
but
I'm
that's what I
saying
heard you say.
that's the general position.
And is that right for Jew to not
No, no,
pay
because
attention?
that old thing, if I am not for someone else, who am I for, et cetera, et cetera.
So it should happen, is what I think you're saying.
Should happen.
Okay, so let me go back into a little bit of history, and I'm going to shoot some names at you, and let me see if you know who these people are. And Adolf Zucker. Adolf Zucker. All right, maybe you don't know. William Fox, Louis B. Mayer, and Harry Cohen. And who are these people?
People who are from Hollywood. I believe that names are ringing a bell. They're in the movie industry in Hollywood.
Yeah, they were in the movie industry in the 1930s in Hollywood. Now, in addition to that, what else do they all have in common?
I guess they must all be Jews.
Yeah, they're all Jewish. So back in the 1930s, Hollywood basically was formed and run by the Jews. Was that a conspiracy or did it just happen?
I don't think it was a conspiracy. It was a
No,
conspiracy.
I'm
I
asking.
think it just happened.
It just happened. And these Jews were in a position of power. This is in the 1930s, and Hitler was rising to power, and Hitler was beginning to make noise about killing the Jews in Germany. But you think the Nazis were simply in that part of the world? What do you think?
In what part of the world?
In Europe.
The Nazis were in Europe.
That's it.
I think so.
Nope.
No?
There were Nazis in the United States of America, and those who were in the 1930s, I might be giving you memories back, and we're going to focus a little bit more on that. Now, why were there Nazis in America in the 1930s? What kind of sense does that make?
Maybe propaganda?
Yeah, exactly right. Propaganda. What they were trying to do, of course, is do what? They were trying to make sure that America would not get into the war. And why did Germany begin to get into a war? Which back in the 30s, of course, they were starting to think about it. They hadn't done it yet. The final solution had not yet been signed. But who were they going after back in Germany? Who did they stop from working? Who did they stop from going to universities? The Jews. And the Americans were not happy that American soldiers were sent over to Europe during World War One. So the Nazis came over here, infiltrated a lot of industries, both covertly and overtly, and formed organizations to begin a propaganda program. Because
So you're saying it was easy for them to come over here and integrate?
well, not only that, it was easy for them to come over and integrate. They were allowed to come in because many of them escaped so-called Europe, but they came into the country not to live, not to have freedom, but to do what? To change American precepts. By the way, if you take a look at espionage today, if you take a look at Facebook, if you take a look at all these other things, we've heard about our enemies, this time using social media, trying to influence the way you and I think. And where do you think they came up with that idea from? The Nazis. The Nazis. So here's something interesting. All these people that I just mentioned, plus many other Jews, and I'm not attacking Jews, I don't want to be called an anti Semite, but this is a factual reality. They came over to escape their roots and not embrace them. And in that particular time of the period where the Jews were running Hollywood, what had occurred? America began to say, whoops, look at the Jews. They're starting to ruin us. Well, look at the Jews. They're taking over the banks. Well, look at the Jews. They're taking over the movie industry.
But how
Look at
can that be? Yeah, they might be a lot of. There might have been a lot of Jews in the movie industry, but how can they say they ruined us? I mean, everything was prospering.
whoa, no, whoa, was everything prospering? What was
No,
going
no,
on
no.
in the
The
1930s? You
yeah,
had the Great what?
the,
Depression.
yeah, the Great Depression.
Oh, look at this. The Jews were prosperous, according to some propaganda ideas, and who in fact was really not doing well during those time periods? The non-Jews. I'm not saying non-Jews didn't suffer during the Depression. Please don't get me wrong. But it's easy to target the Jews because what had happened in the past, history had done that anyway, didn't they? So all of a sudden, you had the movie industry that was under attack. And what the Nazis did is they continued to attack the Jews. Now, if you're a Jew and you're being attacked and you know verbally and you know that people are going to come after you, are you going to make a lot of noise?
No,
Or are you going to be nice
you're
and
gonna probably back
quiet?
off. You're probably gonna back off.
And what did you say earlier about?
You shouldn't. You should rise to the occasion. But people get scared. They don't want something to happen to them. They don't want to lose their job. They don't want to lose their lives.
Yeah, and not only that, here's what history said. History said that the port of Los Angeles was, in fact, one of the most unsecure ports for American enemies to come in. So, what does that mean? You can come in and attack the United States through Los Angeles. But there was one man, a man who headed Universal Studios, somebody that we've never heard of. I did not mention his name. His name, I don't know if I pronounce it right, was Lamel, Laemmles.
I don't think I've ever heard of him.
Yep, he was the gentleman that, in fact, was head of Universal. You know what he did?
What did he
He
do?
stood up and he said, doggone it, I'm Jewish. I'm going to do something about this. And he didn't let American propaganda, he didn't let Nazi propaganda, he didn't let German propaganda stop him. As a matter of fact, we've heard of Schindler's List.
Yes.
He had his own list and publicly and privately decreed that he was going to get people out of Germany, and he did. And he's credited with getting over 300 Jews that would have been eventually in the camps. And
Wow.
as a matter of fact, one of the studio leaders that I talked about actually went to Germany and came back. This is a true story. I don't want to mention the person's name, I really don't. Who came back from Germany and said, you know what? A lot of Jews are going to die. They're going to die. He knew it. But eventually, Nazism is going to go away. So who cares? Back off. And
He
because
told it to this guy.
he told it to Jews in general, to Jews in general. And what had happened? Did you ever hear the movie All's Quiet on the Western Front?
Yeah.
Yep. So here's what happened. In order for Germany to show that they have influence in Hollywood, what had occurred was the movie, when it opened up in Hollywood, pardon me, in Germany, was going to be banned, and there were going to be demonstrations, and there were going to be riots. And as a result of that, future movies, listen, future movies done in Hollywood had in fact not put the Nazis in a negative opinion or a negative role in movies. And I hate to admit this.
So you're telling me that someone like kowtowed to them to take out the content that they didn't like?
Yes, yes. And when
What
they,
was the threat?
the threat was, is that if they continue to show anti-Nazi movies, if they continue to show anti-German movies, they wouldn't be able to be distributed in Europe. That was a big market, including the United States. So they said, no, we're going to back off. We're not going to do anything along that line. So, do we have the same problem today?
Probably yes.
And when you say that, any examples you can come up with?
With an example of racial tension.
Racial tensions. We are indifferent. So,
Yeah.
for example, now listen to this. So, for example, today in America and around the world, regrettably, there is more anti Semitism, both physical, both verbal, that has been in a long, long time. The numbers continue to go up. Okay, we know it. We see it in the news. And you know what kind of an attitude we take? The same thing Carol said earlier. What's the attitude?
Not affecting me personally.
Not affecting me personally. That's okay. Leave it alone. Who cares? So what if somebody gets stabbed in Brooklyn Heights? So what if a bakery gets burnt down in France?
Well,
who cares? I hit a nerve there.
No, you read about it, you feel bad, but
Yeah.
I don't know that you do something personally.
Yeah, nothing.
Unless you're Joan of Arc.
What do you mean unless you're Joan of Arc?
Unless you
I
get
don't
up on your
understand your
horse
point.
and you save the
Oh,
world.
You mean like a Meyer Lansky
Yeah.
guy?
Oh, yes, Meyer Lansky. What about him?
So let's transition. So there's a Jew, Meyer Lansky. Hey, what a tzaddik he was. What's a tzaddik mean?
Cook?
No, tzaddik means righteous individual.
Oh, he was a righteous.
Yeah. Now you're looking at me. Wait a minute, Andy. Whoa! What are you talking about? Meyer Lansky was a criminal. Meyer Lansky was
That's
a
why I
crook.
said he was a cook.
Yeah. I thought you said cook.
No, a crook.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. I didn't know you. I thought you said cook. I didn't hear the
A
R.
crook.
So but he was a tzaddik. Why was he a tzaddik? Because as much of a crook that he was, what did he do? He was part of an organization, we know this, called Murder Incorporated,
Okay.
back in New York. Okay? But he cared enough about his heritage, he cared enough about Judaism, and he went out and verbally fought for Jewish rights. He fought for Jews as a criminal. Is that good when you have a criminal standing up for you? Because there's a man in power, not the kind of power that business brings you, but a man of power who murders people, kills people. You know all the crimes the dude was involved in.
I don't know. I guess you take power any way you can get it.
You take power any way you can get it. Okay, but that kind of a power, do you want the Jewish people to be represented by a criminal? Because what does that do for the Jewish persona in the world?
Leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
So should we have said, hey, Meyer Lansky, you're a criminal, get out?
I don't know.
Now, let me ask you this question. Let's go to Bernie Madoff. Right?
Okay.
All right. Bernie Madoff was a criminal. Didn't kill people. Well, maybe indirectly people committed suicide.
Right. He robbed them of your life.
He robbed them. All right. But guess what he did? It's apparently he was involved in Jewish charities too. He gave money to Jewish charities. One could argue whether it really was good money, bad money. But that's
But then they
that's
all
the issue.
refused it at the end. They didn't want to take it because they thought it was dirty money.
Because they thought it was dirty money. But Meyer Lansky is one of the Jews, believe it or not, that is credited for winning World War II.
And how was
What did he
that?
do? Did he take a gun? Did he sell armaments? Well, yeah, he was involved in a little bit of arms dealing and arms selling to the people who are allies. That's factual. You might not have known that. But here's something else. He was very friendly with the Italian mafia. Very friendly. And where did the Italian mafia come from? Italy. So what does Italy have to do with this story? Where is the center of the mafia in a town in Italy called
I don't know. Tell me.
Sicily?
Sicily. Okay.
Yes. And when, listen to this. When the Americans wanted to really go ahead and put a front on in Europe, yeah, they had a couple of options, of course, Normandy and many of the other battles, but they wanted to go in through Sicily. They felt that there was a weakness in Sicily, and who was in Sicily? The Italians. And what did the Meyer Lansky do? He made friends with the Italians in Sicily. He armed the Italians in Sicily. He built up a resistance against the Germans in Sicily. And what happened when the Americans got there?
They were welcome.
They not only were they welcome, they were able to uproot the Germans and from there go up and do what they did. You haven't heard that one before, have you? But that is factual. That is factual. But at the same time, there was a significant amount of anti Semitism activity against the Jews in New York City. How many of us remember something called the Bund? German Bund, B-U-N-D. You and I don't know this because we weren't born at that time. What was the German Bund? It was 20,000, just 20,000 Germans. And they were Nazis. And they created an organization called the Bund, B-U-N-D, as I mentioned before. And around America, they got 100,000 followers and supporters. And what did they do? They rioted against who?
The Jews.
The Jews.
So who was it that they got involved in their organization?
Germans and people who hated the Jews. Now we're going to get to another religion in a moment when we move up the coast to another city, but the folks who were anti-Jewish, people who hated the Jews, and boy did they have a system. They went out and desecrated. They had propaganda. The Jews were bad. The Jews caused a depression. The Jews owned the movie studios, like I mentioned. You've heard all this before. They owned the banks and they came over, they took over, we got rid of them. White supremacy. Wait, whoa. White supremacy.
That's exactly what's going on right now.
It's exactly what's going on right now.
But I don't, it's going on right now, but it's always been going on.
Yeah.
It never left.
It never left, but I think we could basically agree that this whole concept of white supremacy, the Aryan race, if I may,
Came from the Germans.
came from the Germans. It hasn't gone away. The Germans aren't in there now. I got that. But boy, there is still a cause that's going on for that, isn't there? All right. So let's go back to the 1930s. We had the issues with the Jews. You don't want Americans to fight in a war against Germany. You just don't want that. And by the way, I'm sorry to go back, but Lamar is the fellow I was talking to you about. He died naturally 3 weeks after the invasion of Poland by Germany. Just a bit of reference to history. Sorry to go back and forth, but let's go back to New York. So at the same time, they went and organized. Now, how many of you have ever heard of Madison Square Garden? Yeah, big crowds, right? It says that if you sell out Madison Square Garden, you are
Great.
great. Well, guess who sold out Madison Square Garden?
Tell me that organization sold
That
out.
organization.
Wow.
They had a rally in Madison Square Garden.
How was it built?
Oh, good question. How was it built?
What was the title?
You'd be shocked. It was billed as an anti-Semitic rally for the Nazis against the Jews. And watch this.
And this is in America.
This is in America, 1930s. And watch this. To show how American it was to do it, they had on the stage the Nazi flag. Which, okay, that's what they had. I'm not okaying it, but that's what they had. And right next to it, they had a picture of an American president.
Okay, I'm confused.
George Washington.
George Washington was a Nazi?
Didn't say that. But they made it appear as if George Washington was. And in this particular rally, they talked about that to be a true American and true Americanism and George Washington were together at the Nazi Bund. And 22,000 people were there. It happened on February 20th, 1939. And here's what the title was. It was Stop Jewish Domination of Christian Americans. Wake up, America! Smash Jewish communism.
Wow.
Yes, and many other sayings like that were draped from the rafters in Madison Square Garden. However, at that time, there was not silence because outside of Madison Square Garden, there was a protest. 100,000 people protested against the 22,000 that were in fact inside Madison Square Garden.
Fabulous.
100,000 people.
Fabulous.
Okay? Did they burn the place down? No. Did they riot like they do today? No. Was there any bit of violence? No. Were there New York City cops there? Yes. Did LaGuardia, Fiorello LaGuardia, did he allow this to go on?
He must have.
He did. And why did he say it goes on? Because they have the right to freedom of speech under the First Amendment. Can't stop them. Did you know that according to Jewish law, Fiorello LaGuardia was Jewish?
No, he sounds Italian to me.
His mother, some of you might know this, his mother was Jewish. So, in order to protect American rights under the First Amendment, he let the Nazis have Madison Square Garden. People came to him to withdraw the permit. He said, I cannot do it. The First Amendment would not allow me. But he did let the 100,000 people on the outside go ahead and demonstrate. Now, not only that, during the demonstration, now you're not going to like me so much. During the demonstration, during the demonstration inside Madison Square Garden, there was a Jewish fellow, I believe his name was Greenbaum, and he rushed the stage. He rushed the stage. And what did he do? He was protesting. How he got in, who knows? But he was protesting what was going on. He got arrested. He got beat up, not by the cops. Got beat up by the cops, thrown in jail, found guilty for disturbing the peace. A Jew who wanted to fight this, and that's what occurred. The Bunds were very powerful, and as I mentioned before, they tried so hard. And when the 100,000 people showed up to demonstrate, Fiorello LaGuardia had 1,700 police officers that were there. So I'm going to pause for a moment. Was Fiorello, I can't pronounce his name, LaGuardia correct?
Was he correct? If he was going by the First Amendment, and he gave this group, even though this group was spouting hate and propaganda, the right to rent the place, he also gave the group that was protesting against them the right to protest. He was being fair. But was he right? It's a very hard question to
Could
answer.
that occur today?
Could that occur today? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I didn't look it up. I don't think
I
so.
don't think so.
I think that would be classified as hate crimes,
It
and I
would be.
don't
It would
believe
be.
I don't believe that the Ku Klux Klan, yeah,
Could rent anything, right?
could rent anything and do that. And I believe that a lot of the laws were changed as a result of
That
what happened in Madison Square Garden. And by the way the rally started, the big cheese of the Nazi Bund Party at the time started off by saying the following. He took the stage and he said, I denounce Jewish control of American institutions. Not only that, this fellow's name was Kuhn, Kuhn. Not only that, listen to this. I'm going to quote. If you ask what we are actively fighting for under our charter, first, a socially just, white, Gentile ruled United States. Second, this is what he wrote. I'm going to make this stuff up.
I'm shaking my head
I
because
know.
I
Second, Gentile-controlled labor unions. In Hebrew, we have an expression, goy. And free from Jewish Moscow directed domination.
Moscow.
Russia.
Okay, I know.
Now, why Russia?
Why Russia?
Because there are Jews, I'm not saying they were right or wrong, there are Jews who believe in socialism, some still do, who believe in the communist way of doing things. And by the way, Marx was what?
He was a communist.
And?
Russian.
And?
Leader.
And?
Dictator.
And? Jewish.
And Marx. Oh, okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Now, this is what he did. Kahn then incited the crowd by changing the name of President Roosevelt. And what did he call him? Rosenfield, like he was a Jew. And Manhattan District Attorney Thomas Dewey, he called him Thomas Jury. And of course, Mr. LaGuardia, he called him Jew Lumpen LaGuardia.
But he rented the place to them.
I understand that. I understand that. All of that is just history. And you know what?
What?
After the rally, German people came out who belonged to the Nazi Party. And remember, I said that the demonstrators, Greenbaum was up there. Actually, there were 13 total. They all got beat up. Here's what they said: it was worth 40 cents just to see the cops beat those Jews on stage. What do you think the other fellow replied?
I don't know. Nothing.
Ready for this? Yes, but all this is just practice for what's coming.
Not good.
You know, there was something that happened this week in America. I'm not going to mention the person's name. It's not right. And maybe it is right, but I'm not going to do it anyway. You can look it up in the news. There's a U.S. senator or congressperson. Can't remember which one. I apologize. I think it's congressperson who is running against a Jew in Georgia, and he posted a picture on Facebook of his opponent, which was deliberately photoshopped.
And what did it look like?
He had a larger nose. And it's still going on today.
Well, did Facebook make him take it off?
As a matter of fact, what occurred was, yes, Facebook made him take it off. Yep, yep, yep. And by the way, do you think he lost votes? I don't have the answer to this, but let me ask you something. If you were in Georgia, wow, that might be the right thing to do, wouldn't it? Have I ever told this story about me and somebody in Georgia? I think I did, but I'm gonna refer to it anyway. This goes back a long, long time ago, probably over 35 years ago. I just started a new job somewhere, and I was in 2 weeks worth of training, and this fellow had worked for the company for about 25 years. And he was in the same training session. He happened to be from Georgia, Atlanta, and he was a redneck as far as any redneck could go. He was an admitted redneck. He didn't hide it. He didn't hide it. I spent 2 weeks there with him. After the 2 week period, we're about to say goodbye. He takes his arm, puts him around me like this, and looks me straight in the eye and says, and I can't do his accent that well, "What, Ende? You are the best Jew boy I ever met." Okay, I got it. I didn't know what to do.
I was going to say, what did you do?
I was shocked. 2.5 years later, the guy gets a phone call. Aha! Guess who his new sales manager is? Who'd only been on the job for 2.5 years, and he'd been around 10 times longer than the new sales manager. Me. What was my last name? Greenberg. What did the gentleman say to me? I called him gentleman. What did he say to me when I called him on the phone? He says, "Andy, do you remember the last words I said to you when we met in California?"
You said?
What do you think I said?
You said no.
I said, "No, I don't." He quit 6 months later.
Because he didn't want to work for a Jew?
Because he didn't want to work for a Jew. Did I push him out? You might be thinking, well, maybe I put extra pressure. He was the best sales guy we had. So, you don't want to lose sales guys. All right, let me move on to something else you probably didn't know about. And that is one of the biggest cities in the country that was involved in anti-Semitic activity was not the city you might be thinking of. It is, in fact, Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Minneapolis.
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 Wow.
Okay? Minnesota Jews and anti Semitism going from 1920 to 1948. Who was one of the biggest people that were there, one of the biggest organizations? Remember earlier we talked about the Bund, B-U-N-D? They were big in Minneapolis. They infiltrated the government. They infiltrated parts of the Christian organization. They formed organizations that said anybody who is 18 and not Jewish or African American, please join. Please join. And they called it the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. And what was their only purpose to be in existence? There were two: Nazi propaganda and anti Jewish hate. Because guess what? If you can get the Americans to hate the Jews, and Germany hated the Jews, and you know that they are going to be incarcerated and there's trouble over there, and you're an American who really didn't want World War I to occur in the first place, and then all of a sudden America decides to go to war, and you know the Germans that they're attacking are against the Jews, what are you going to think? Don't go into the war. The Jews are horrible. This is what I heard. I hate to admit it, but if the plan had worked, it would have been brilliant.
Well, thank goodness the plan didn't work.
It would have been brilliant. I absolutely have to tell them, okay, that at that time it was brilliant. And their battle cry was, ready for this? This is what their battle cry was: down with the Reds and out with the Jews. Now, America in those days did not like communists. Okay, we know. We heard about McCarthy. You forget what year that was, doesn't matter. They didn't like communists, except the communists liked communists.
In the 50s, I
In the
think.
50s, yeah, even back in those days. So what did they do? They associated the Jews with communism. Did they have the right to do that? You really start to think about it. We were pretty involved in labor unions and all the other things that people were talking about. So there was enough ammunition there for them to go ahead and take this on. And in Minnesota, they decided to do that. And they had, in fact, had gotten 3,000 Minnesotan folks to get involved in anti-Jewish activities. I'm going to dovetail for a moment, and I'm going to ask you this question. In America, who was one of the biggest non-Jewish anti-Semites? Hated the Jews. Hated them with a passion. Henry Ford. Some of us might know that. Henry Ford was one of the biggest anti Semites, if not the biggest anti Semites in the world. And pardon me, maybe the world, United can't be the world, Hitler and his gang, but in the United States. Okay, and guess who he gave money to?
Gave money to the German organization.
In Minneapolis, in Minnesota, this was exactly the right
So
thing for him to do.
okay, Henry Ford is the one with the cars.
Yeah.
So if a if a Jew buying a car knew that, would he have bought a car from them?
Oh, wow. What a
Hey,
question,
why would I buy
Carol.
a Ford
Oh,
car?
my God. What a
Do we ever
question.
own a Ford?
Oh, my. You and I did one. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
wow.
Now, isn't the same thing happening in the world today? There are companies who are still anti-Jewish. And I'm going to apologize in advance for my ignorance. One of the two beverage companies, I always forget which one it is. One of the two beverage companies, either Coca-Cola or Pepsi. Carol tells me it's Pepsi. She knows. I should have asked. I'm going to replay the tape. Back up, Carol. By the way, which company does not from the beverage sell product into Israel?
Must be Pepsi.
Yeah, I just wanted to show her brilliance and my stupidity.
I believe it's Pepsi.
Yeah, Pepsi. Okay. Now, by the way, ladies and gentlemen who are Jewish, would you go out and buy a Pepsi product today? Yeah, even though they won't sell to Israel. So the same thing is true. Okay. Now, have I ever bought a Pepsi product? Yeah. Does that make me a hypocrite? It might. But the same thing occurs today that occurred then, to answer your question. And not only were they so successful, going back to Minnesota, not only were the Minnesotans so successful in getting the Jews ostracized, there was a huge university there called the University of Minnesota. And how do you think they treated Jews?
Must be terrible.
They let them in,
They let them in,
gave them separate quarters, ostracized them, discriminated against them. made life difficult for them with the sororities and fraternities and the whole thing. I'm not going to get into the whole history of it. It's in way too much detail, but they were extremely successful. And guess what? They even gave a quota to Jews, which I know you've heard about, where only a certain number of Jews can get in based on certain professions, and doctors were one of them. So you walked out with a degree as a doctor from the University of Minneapolis. Could you practice anywhere as a Jew? No. Hospitals wouldn't hire you. They wouldn't hire you.
You know this? Did they know this in advance?
No, they wouldn't hire you. So let's use a little bit of Jewish seichel. If you have a doctorate and you're a physician and you want to heal people, and hospitals will not let you practice there, what are you going to do?
You're moving and getting out. And
No, you don't do that.
No?
No.
What do?
You form Mount Sinai Hospital in 1951, which is a non-sectarian private hospital, and that's where the Jewish doctors went. That's why you see so many Jewish hospitals.
Because they formed their own hospitals because no one would hire them?
Yes, that's a little bit of seichel here.
Oh.
Regrettably. Oh, by the way, I don't know if it's still true or not, but it was probably about 10, 15 years ago, even as a non-Jew. If you were going through the phone book looking for a doctor and you saw a Jewish doctor's name, Cohen, Levine, you know the names, right? And those, I don't think that's true anymore, but you would look for a Jewish doctor, right?
Right.
Now that's changed, but it was when we were growing up. I a Jewish doctor, what a wonderful thing!
Well,
I don't want.
what your mother wanted you to be.
I'm talking.
I know.
Yeah, and even a Gentile would go to her daughter, and that's when I have to be very careful here. That's when doctors were predominantly male. The Jewish mother would go to the daughter, say, a non-Jewish mother would say, "Hey, if you want to get married to a Jewish doctor." But that's neither here nor there. But discrimination was outlawed in the 1940s. Opportunities for Jews increased, and anti-Semitism slowly, but not entirely, disappeared. And right before that, in Minneapolis, they were shut out of civic life, social organizations. But here's something interesting: the Jews did not quit. The Jews did not quit. We do not give up. Do we survive? No.
No?
We prosper. I had a discussion the other day with somebody. This one we've never heard before. And we were talking, regrettably, about the Holocaust. And I'm not going to get involved in the theological thing that we were talking about, but one of the discussions came up as where was God, etc., etc. Okay, I got it. So part of the discussion centered around the fact that I made a statement that you've never heard before, I don't think. And I believe, I never thought of this before. I believe that at the time of the Holocaust, a miracle did occur, and I am not suggesting the miracle of Israel that was the outcome of the Holocaust. We've heard that story. In Germany, which is what we're talking about, with all the anti Semitic activity, what was the number one goal of the Germans when they signed the final solution?
Get rid of every Jew.
Every Jew. Every Jew. Everyone. And if you were around in 1930s and the 1940s in Europe and around the world, you were on the German death list and you should not be here today. Boom. That was it. That was the piece of paper that they signed. We all know it. Did it come true? No. 6 million died. I can't explain that. But many survived. The decree did not happen. That could be called a miracle, in my opinion. You can disagree. I understand that. When we see each other back and forth live, we'll be able to further have that discussion. But listen to this. This you've heard me say before. Not only did they fail, there are more Jews today in the world than there's ever been at any one time on planet Earth.
So we regrouped and we came back.
We regrouped, we came back, we prospered, we grew. Now, let me go to one other city that's going to, again, I'm not quite sure whether or not you know this or not, but there was another city in the United States that was heavily anti Semitic. Heavily. And where is that? That's where the Boston Tea Party occurred, meaning Boston. Doesn't mean there was anti Semitism when the party occurred, But in the 1930s, the Bund went up there and they combined with the Christian organizations, and there they desecrated Jewish shops. They made vandalism against Jews. They attacked Jews. They did everything they possibly could to give the Jews a miserable and lousy personality in front of people with their propaganda. And we're familiar with something called, you and I were in Boston, right? And Boston is the center of freedom, right? We go there, we see all these wonderful things. We even walked a little place called the Freedom Trail, didn't we?
Yeah,
Yep. And the Freedom Trail route that we now know today was the home of the Nazi supporters.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. The Freedom Trail is where the Nazis were. Not only the cradle of liberty's anti Semitic activists, they received funds directly from Berlin and they helped incite small pogroms, not in Russia,
In Boston?
in Boston, against the Jews. During the same years as the Holocaust, marauding anti Semitic bunds severely restricted the physical movement of many Jews. What does that mean, physical movement? They saw a Jew, stood right in front of them, stopped them, rendering difficulty for them to carry on normal religious, business, or social activities. You know that?
I didn't.
Nope. Nope. This is what we're about. And there was one particular Christian leader in Boston by the name of Frank Charles Coughlin. And he was the founder of something called Hate Radio.
Hate radio?
Hate. Hate Radio. And by the way, who do you think he targeted on Hate Radio?
Oh, the Jews.
The Jews. Okay? And he had the largest radio show in Boston. And the Nazi front heeded his calls to organize boycotts and mass mailings against the Jews. And here's what he wrote. This is going to hurt.
The radio guy?
Yeah. Here's what he wrote. When we get through with the Jews in America, they'll think the treatment that they received in Germany was nothing. That's what he said. He also published a social justice newspaper that reprinted the articles I told you earlier about the protocols of elders of Zion. Not only that, he organized Jew hunts. This is Boston. This is the United States of America. This is the same place where the Madison Square Garden thing occurred. This is the same place where discrimination happened in Minneapolis and Minnesota, of all the places that I'm telling you. And we all know, of course, Boston is one of the heads of insurance, right? There was an insurance salesman by the name of Francis Moran, and he said the following. Who are the bloodsuckers plotting to send our boys to die in England? As if at a Nazi rally in Germany, the crowds roared back. What do you think?
Hate Jews.
The Jews. The Jews. In the city of Boston, all that occurred. Not only that, but there was a German consul general in Boston who was a SS officer, and he was a friend of Heinrich Himmler. By the way, who is Heinrich Himmler? He's the guy that signed the final solution. He was the architect of the Holocaust. And these guys were friends and they worked together to eradicate and eliminate the Jews. So, what I wanted to cover today, I said it wasn't going to be comforting, but I kind of felt it was important to know because in today's world, as Carol so brilliantly said, that part of anti-Semitism, as in we both had agreed, is when Jews sit back and do nothing. Am I asking us to do anything? No. Am I trying to organize anything? No. But I think if there's a takeaway from this, and I'm not trying to preach, it might sound like I am, but when we see something on TV or radio where a Jew was attacked in any part of the world, let's not disassociate ourselves from it because guess what? That's what the people in Hollywood did. That's what the people in Boston did. That's what the people in New York did. That's what the Jewish mayor did. He still allowed it to happen. I understand the Constitution. We can argue about that some other time. I got it. But today's world, excuse me, in today's world, that would not have happened. No rally like that is allowed to take place. So we should take these things really personally. But I want to end this thing a little bit on an upbeat note. And what is the upbeat note? And it is as follows. Here's a holiday that few people know about. There's a holiday coming up Tuesday night and Wednesday because our days start in the afternoon, in the evening, I should say, and that is called Tu B'Av.
Tu B'Av.
Tu B'Av. It is not Tisha B'Av, it's Tu B'Av. So here's a little bit of Jewish seichel, a little bit of Jewish brains. When you have a full moon. Now, sometimes they say, okay, you got the werewolf, it's not good, but isn't it romantic to sit out with a full moon? And Tu B'Av is the 15th day of Av, the month of Av. And in fact, there's a full moon. A full moon. Every 15th of Av, there's a full moon. It just happens to work that way. The brilliance of the Jewish calendar. By the way, the 15th of every Hebrew month is where you have a full moon. And something else happened on the 15th of the month, and that was Passover. It also happened on the 15th, and the 15th of Adar, if I remember right, Purim. So a lot of holidays occur on the 15th. So with that being said, it was the 15th of Adar. I might have to look one up. But with that being said, this coming Tuesday night and Wednesday is Jewish Valentine's Day. Now, is that something new? Did we follow the Christians? No! Tu B'Av, that is, as it is known, is in fact a holiday that is in the Talmud from over 2,000 years ago. I've lost track of time. Over 2,000 years ago. And it is the day when a shidduch, which means matchmaking, should occur. It is a day when all the singles get together and try and find their mate. And this goes all the way back to the times of the Talmud.
Okay, Hallmark is missing out on a big marketing thing
Well,
for Jewish Valentine's
well,
Day.
yeah, but not only Hallmark, who else?
Uh,
Jews, because most Jews don't even know about this.
I didn't know.
Right? Most Jews, oh, we got a somber religion. We can't do this. We can't do that. It's too restrictive. It's not modern. Who cares? Blah, blah, blah. All of which is true. I didn't mean to minimize the blah, blah, blah. I just wanted to condense it. So from that point of view, most of us don't know that all our holidays, save one, and that was the one that was recently, Tisha B'Av, all our holidays, even Yom Kippur, are happy days. And this one is one of the happiest days that we have. So when you think about Valentine's Day, you think about a spouse, a mate, a lover, or whatever, but also think family. Thank you. Exactly right. Think about your family. Give them a buzz. I know we haven't seen them. We yearn to see them. I understand that. Give them a buzz. Go on Zoom. Go on Skype. Somehow make a communication. Reach out to them and say the following: from Jew to Jew, from generation to generation, I love you. Even though today is only one day of Jewish love, Jewish Valentine's Day, I love you every day. And I love the fact that we are all part of a magnificent heritage that the world has been trying to destroy since the beginning of time. And I love you so much that I'm able to share our traditions, our heritage, our past. And the only thing I ask of you, my love, is that you carry on our traditions in the future. Because that's what I did. And I pray to God that's what we all do. My name is Andy Greenberg. And
I'm Carol Greenberg.
And I know it was a rough session. I hope it was educational for you. I don't have the topic picked out for next month, but I can tell you it's going to be just a little bit more uplifting. But we try and do a lot of different topics. And I hope you got a lot out of this one. And by the way, Carol, when do you think we're going to see everybody again, at least on this type of a format? Shabbat. We'll see you on Shabbat. We look forward. And once again, thanks for bringing us into your life. We'll see you later. Stay safe, stay healthy, and please remember the following three things. May you be good to God, may God be good to you, and may we all be good to each other. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much.